are you? You know I don't like change, especially for the ultrasounds. For the blood work, whatever. It's also like a new person in your vagina, bro. Like, you're in my shit. I have so many people in and out of my vagina all the time. And not in a way that's ideal. Okay, whoa. Get it together. Because this chair doesn't quite hug me the way that I need it to. Maybe it's because of the pillows. Let's see. Don't spill, don't spill. Okay. That's good. Okay, so what do I want to say? This cycle was a nightmare. It was so filled with like anxiety from start to yesterday. I had 3 monitoring appointments. As you guys know, anytime you're starting a cycle, whether it's for egg retrieval or for transfer, first of all, let me just start with this. And I really don't want to make this too long, but it's probably going to go there. An IVF cycle isn't from beginning to end like I thought. Like, an IVF cycle isn't from eggs all the way through transfer. An IVF cycle could be just the egg retrieval, or just the transfer, or everything in between, like all of it together. I've been doing it piece by piece because I'm doing frozen embryo transfers. I'm doing FETs. This is like my 7th cycle. I'll have to count for you. This is my 2nd transfer cycle that's canceled. I've had 2 egg retrieval cycles canceled now, so I've had 4 cycles canceled total. And it's like devastating to me. Like, I fucking hate it. The waiting game. I've been so patient like this entire journey, right? I think exceptionally patient, considering I don't really have very many eggs. I get 1 at a time. That is agonizing, okay? If you know, you know. Having diminished ovarian reserve to this capacity fucking sucks. I can only do, and on top of that, my situation is so screwed. This is why I'm crazy. Like, I say this in my other videos, like, I'm not crazy just for shits and giggles. I'm crazy because of this. I have diminished ovarian reserve to the point where I can only, if I'm lucky, get 1 egg at a time per egg retrieval. And then I have to hope and pray and hop on one pinky toe that that egg is mature enough and strong enough to withstand the process of being combined with a sperm cell. It has to survive ICSI. And then it has to survive through the night. And then it has to survive 3 days and multiply. Like, it has to be that good. Not all eggs are that way, okay? And the quality of that egg and embryo is always up in the air when you have diminished ovarian reserve for whatever reason. And that quality risk increases tremendously every second that you get older. And so I feel like just getting to these points of getting an egg and then getting an embryo takes so long, because I'm also doing it naturally. I'm not on stimulating meds. I'm not on stimulating hormones to help make things happen when we want it to happen. My ovaries are already screaming bloody murder. Pumping any more hormones into me is not going to do anything at this point. So I've been on a natural cycle since starting with LIC, right? Which means I have to wait until my period starts. Sometimes that's in 28 days, sometimes that's in 21 days, sometimes that's in 30 days, sometimes that's in 43 days, okay? I have to wait till my period starts. And then when that happens, that's the green light to start the appointments, start the monitoring cycles. They're not procedures, they're monitoring appointments, which is also agonizing because all I'm doing is going in, getting my blood drawn, getting an ultrasound. They check for anything weird, they find my ovaries, they locate my uterus and measure everything. That's all these appointments are. To a normal person who's doing it locally in their neighborhood, that's no big deal. For me, I fucking hate monitoring appointments because it's such a waste of my time. I feel like it's such a waste of time and resources. I don't just go down the street to the clinic during a lunchtime or like on a Saturday or like after work and go get these labs done and then come right back and go about my life. I'm taking chunks out of my life to go and do these labs, right? And from the very beginning, I tried everything in my power to figure out a way that I could do the labs locally here and send the information to California, but I couldn't find anybody. The clinics here in Arizona, they don't want to fuck with you if you're not their patient. They're not interested. And the one place that I did find that was interested in doing that wanted to charge $500 per monitoring appointment additional, just for their services. You guys already know that I am on a tight budget. It's so tight, it doesn't exist. And not in the way that there's like a ceiling, in a way that there's like there's nothing, there's no money in the budget at all. So I'm maneuvering and manipulating every little thing that I can to make this happen as it is. That's on top of having insurance. The insurance is great, but it doesn't cover everything, which is another problem, right? So I couldn't do the labs here and have them sent to Cali and then just do all the big stuff there. I don't have $500 every time I go to an appointment. Sometimes these appointments are 3 and 4 at a time. That's extra money that I could be putting towards like gas, hotels, medication like progesterone when I do need it. I don't have to pay for the estrogen or like the birth control pills because that's covered under regular health coverage. But the progesterone costs, just in case like I do an egg retrieval and I do need a trigger shot or you know, the stuff that the meds that you need for egg retrieval, not the stimulating hormones, but you know, that money could go there. That money could be going to like another vial of sperm. That money could be going to like paying off debt that I have incurred because of this whole process, right? I don't have the extra money for it, and so I've never done that. Each monitoring cycle that or appointment that I've had to take a day off of work, drive to Cali, do the appointment, and then while I'm there, I also have to, that's another thing, like we have to wait for results before we can leave or go about our day, if we're not local, meaning if we're not like 15 minutes away and can just come right back and pick up prescriptions or whatever, because something might pop up where the doctor is like, okay, you need to take this, this, and this. And the reason why that's so important is because a lot of clinics don't hold medication in the facility. You have to get it prescribed and go pick it up from the pharmacy. My clinic has medication in the office. But you can choose to go to a pharmacy, but chances are you need the medication right away. So having it filled at a pharmacy and then getting it to you immediately is almost impossible. Like even for my, like for instance, my Provera, by the time they prescribe me the Provera, they want me to take it that day. I still have to drive back home to Arizona to pick up the prescription if the pharmacy isn't closed, and then start taking it that night. That never happens, and that didn't happen last night. Anyways, so these monitoring appointments, although extremely simple, they're probably the most like simple things that are a part of this process, are not simple for me, and they're agonizing because I'm driving across the desert state to state just to do this blood work in these labs, and there's 3 to 4 of them per cycle, whether that's egg retrieval or for transfer. Every time I have to start a new cycle over, I'm almost dreading it. I'm like, there's a lot of anxiety around starting a cycle over because I know what's coming. I know the long haul that's coming. I know what to expect. And so when I first start when I first get my period and have to make the appointment, and then I know that I'm like geared up to start traveling and do this all over again, I get major anxiety. Like I hate it. I hate it. And I, like earlier in the video, like I don't want to go. It's hard for me to get back on the bandwagon after going all the way up only to come right back down, and that's it. And then I hop off the ride, and then I have to go and start over, and then I get ramped up to the top, and then I come right back down, and that's it. It's not like a, you know, a roller, it's up, crash, start over, up, crash. Like it sucks. A lot of patience. So by the time I get to the 3rd or 4th appointment, I'm exhausted, I'm anxious, I'm ready to get to the next step. I'm ready to get over the hump. I'm ready to like bust through the door and have the egg retrieval done. I'm ready to bust through the door and have my transfer done and move on to the next phase. But I quite frequently am stuck right before the next phase often, and it just sucks. Like I get so close to it and then I get canceled or something happens or just something, right? I've been really, really patient, but my anxiety has been through the roof. It is increasing through this process. Like I'm gonna go back and like talk more about like generalized anxiety disorder and IVF and all of the shit that is just actually swirling around in my mind and in my heart, and how fucked up I feel inside, having nothing to do with IVF necessarily. That's a whole different kind of fucked up. But like how like my mental health has changed because of all of the things. Anyways, yesterday was my 3rd appointment. I was really concerned this whole transfer cycle that it was going to be a repeat of my last one. My last one was canceled because I ovulated early and my progesterone shot up right before the transfer actually was going to be scheduled. I thought it was going to happen again because I had signs and symptoms of ovulating. And everybody keeps saying like, well, you're not on an egg retrieval cycle, so that's not an issue. You shouldn't worry about that. That's not what I understand. Although I get what they're saying, what you know, their perspective is that if you ovulate, the concern is that you're going to lose an egg, but we're not going after an egg, so there's no worry. I feel like that's incorrect in the sense of when you ovulate, like there are hormones and things being secreted and kicking off like a domino effect all of the other things. And so the two things that need to be watched during monitoring are your LH, your luteinizing hormone, and your P3, your progesterone. And I don't know which one kicks off the other, but right as you start to ovulate, your LH, which should be a high number to start, which is good, will drop significantly when you're about to start ovulating or when you start the ovulation phase. So your LH, that should be a high number for transfer, drops suddenly. And that sends a signal to all of the other parts in play to say, hey, we're getting ready to release an egg, everybody get in position, because we're going to get ready to wait for fertilization. We're going to have a pregnancy this time. So when the LH drops, your progesterone, which is low, your P3, that should be super, super low for transfer, shoots up. And people like have different numbers on ovulation indicator, but my clinic looks for anything 1 and up. Other doctors say 2.5 and up. Other doctors say 5 and up. Other doctors say 10 and up. My clinic looks for 1 and up, right? So the last transfer cycle that got canceled, I went from progesterone being 0.48 or something, or 0.5 something, to 6 point whatever the fuck. And my LH went from like 11 to 6. So both of those things happened, which indicate ovulation. If my progesterone increases like that, it's canceled. They can't do anything about it. So I say all that to say, me ovulating prematurely, like before my doctor is ready, matters. And I felt that happening this transfer. When I say signs and symptoms of ovulation, don't spit. Fuck. Hold on. Take 2. Now I have even more to clean up when I'm done with this. I don't even remember what I was saying. Broke my chair in finally. First spill. Ugh, annoying. What was I saying? Oh, that I was concerned about, talking about signs and symptoms. Other than me using the fuck word all the time, which at first I said that I was going to really clean that up, because that's not me. Like, I'll use it, but I don't typically use it like this. And by typically, I mean before these past 3 years. I didn't really use language like this, but I'm getting older and shit hurts and things suck, and I haven't found a more expressive word that makes me feel the satisfaction the way that fuck does. But other than using that word, I've tried to keep it clean as far as like describing what's actually happening. But hell, everybody else is talking about it, juices and stuff. So let's talk about juices. If you ovulate, a lot of women don't know that they're ovulating, or don't pay attention to it, but I can tell everything. I can feel everything. I'm very in tune with my body. I know when something's going on. I know for the most part what stuff means. So when I say, if I'm talking or thinking and then all of a sudden I'm just like, something feels funny, like something just happened, it's because I can literally feel when, I guess I think most women can feel when their period drops, like literally like the faucet opens a little bit and you can just feel like moisture like coming out of the pipes. You can feel that when your period happens. But when you know you're not on your period and you feel that, that could mean other things. It could mean that there's an issue, like you got a leaky faucet that needs medication because something is wrong and rusty or something. Or it could be, depending on where you are in your period window, like you're not bleeding but you're still on a menstrual cycle, right? Depending on where you are, like if you're about to, like for me, first of all, I get like really paranoid and like nervous, like mentally. I'm like just like on edge, right? So there's that, and I'm like, okay, I know that like stuff is coming up because I track everything. I track my periods. I'm gonna start tracking. It sounds really stupid to say, but at this point in the game, I've been doing this for so long that I'm only just now tracking ovulation, that I'm gonna just now start to track my ovulation because I need to make sure that I'm staying caught up with my doctor and everybody as far as that goes. But anyways, I know that when my period is coming up, ovulation occurs before that, right? So when I feel that like leaky faucet, like all of a sudden there's moisture coming down, that freaks me out when I know it's not time for that yet. And that happened on, let me see, when did I come back? That happened, today is Saturday, Friday. I called freaking out on Thursday, Wednesday. I called freaking out on Tuesday. That happened on Monday. So I felt the leaky faucet on Monday. Meanwhile, I know, wait, I had an appointment on Tuesday. When I went to that appointment on Tuesday, that was my second appointment. Almost as soon as I got done with that appointment, I felt the leaky faucet as soon as I was done. Sometimes I feel like the ultrasound, the wand almost triggers my body to do certain things when I'm not asking it to. Like just because we're like taking a look inside doesn't mean that we need you to start doing stuff. It's not time yet. But there have been occasions where after my transvaginal ultrasound, that's where they take the wand and put it in your vagina to see everything that's going on in your uterus and your ovaries. Sometimes after that happens, like my body starts doing things and kicking off. And I was afraid at my Tuesday appointment that that's what was happening. I just knew that from Tuesday to yesterday, Friday, I needed to hang on, because Friday was going to be my third appointment. That was going to be the indicator of like when my transfer was going to be, if it was going to be a Monday or Tuesday. I was just like, body, please hold on. Hormones, please don't do anything. Ovaries, please don't release any eggs too soon. Please just hang in there. We're almost there. So as soon as I felt that like fluid, that moisture come down Tuesday afternoon, right after my appointment, I started freaking out. And it continued all to the rest of Tuesday, and then Wednesday, I think Wednesday morning, I called freaking out to the nurse asking her, you know, if they were keeping track of like when I'm supposed to ovulate or not, because I ovulate early. I've done that in the past. That's why my last transfer got canceled. Like, I need you guys to be like watching this, waiting for it. She's just like, yeah, we know, and these are the indicators that we look for, and everything was fine. And she's just like, you can take another test or just whatever, right? There's nothing that we can do. So she explained it even more, my last transfer, why things happened the way that they did, and how just like a little bit more about how things worked. So I hung up with her and I was just like, okay, well, let's just try to keep it tight until my next appointment. That was Wednesday. And then Thursday, that leaky faucet opened up even more, and there was more fluid that was coming out. And also, you should be able to tell like what your issue is by the type of fluid that comes out, right? If there's any color or like odor or anything weird about that that fluid or moisture coming out, you have a problem with the leaky faucet. No judgment. I think we've all been there at least once. But if there's an issue in that regard, if there's any color or odor or anything, then you should see a doctor for like antibiotics or whatever it is. But if it's, depending on the consistency, it very well could be ovulation. Typically, if you Google it or like find videos on like what to expect during ovulation, that consistency, they have this like weird example of like, if you put your finger in your vagina and you take it out and there's goo, clear goo on it, and you go like this and stretch it, that's ovulation. First of all, who's doing that, right? I mean, if you're doing that, good for you, baby. Good for you. I'm not doing that. That's just too much. I don't need to do all of that. And second of all, mine isn't that consistency. And again, this is going to be TMI. We're just talking about what we're talking about, right? Nothing weird. Mine isn't like gooey. It's just like water. It's just clear water. Sometimes a little bit slippery, but it's not like putty where you like stretch it. And I know this because it just comes out. Like, it's just water. So Thursday, the leaky faucet opened even more, and there was like more clear fluid, watery consistency coming out, and I'm freaking out because it's like, and then I started to cramp. That's another sign of like ovulation. It's like mild cramping. So I was feeling that all throughout the week, and then Thursday, I felt almost like a pop on my left side, and I was like, it just happened. It just released an egg. I felt it. That was it. So I'm freaking out. I end up calling the nurses station again to just be like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm ovulating right now. At this point, my biggest concern is that my progesterone has skyrocketed before my appointment on Friday, and it was going to be the same thing, cancel, because my progesterone has shot up. That was my concern. So when I call her again, she's just like, there's nothing that we can do. Like, it's not like as easy as you think it would be to, you know, just like maneuver days and things. Like, we can do that for the egg retrieval cycle, but for transfer cycle, everything has to be perfect. There's nothing that we can do aside from have you come in and test earlier. And I was like, I'm already coming tomorrow at, you know, 11. Like, I don't know what the point would be for me to come in earlier and test earlier. What I wanted her to say was, if you think it's happening, because in my mind, everybody's super familiar with my file, with my case. Everybody knows that I'm coming from Arizona. Everybody knows that, like, I'm always on the struggle bus, and I'm always short on time, money, eggs. Like, I just feel like everybody at this point knows what's going on with me, and that's not the case. But in my mind, it's like, just tell me to go take an ovulation kit from the drugstore to find out if it's happening or not. And if it's happening, then cancel your appointment so you don't have to drive all the way out there and do this whole thing. If it's canceled, it's canceled. And if it's not happening, then at least we know that you can still come. And I'll put in the chart to the doctor that shit's happening, or like whatever. In my mind, that's what I wanted her to say. I wanted her to jump on this crazy bandwagon of mine and just like, let's figure out a plan. She's just like, no, there's nothing that we can do. We can have you come in earlier or whatever, but if it's happened, then it's happened. We have to cancel the transfer, unfortunately. Sorry. So I'm just like, fuck it. Up there Friday morning, yesterday, and I think I've been mentioning these migraines and how concerned I've also been about my blood pressure is usually high when I go to my appointments, and like for the past week and a half or so, I've been extra concerned about my blood pressure just being high because of the anxiety and all the travel, and like I've been getting these migraines out of this world. And that's something else that can cancel a cycle, is if your blood pressure is sky high, they're not going to do it. They're going to cancel you. So that was another thing that was concerning to me. It was that every time I came to California, whether it was for like my trip or for my appointment, as soon as I got here or got there, my head would just split the fuck open. It would just start hurting to the point where I cannot think, I cannot focus. And of course that happened yesterday. As soon as I got to California, down the mountain, there was this really, and this isn't the first time that's happened, there's this really ugly brown layer in the sky, and I'm always like, what is that? Is that pollution? Is that smoke? Is that dirt? Is that like, what is that clouds? Like, I can't tell what it is. Here in Arizona, we don't have that. We have clear skies. If there is something in the sky that looks like that, it's dirt, because it's a dirt storm. But as soon as I'm like, what is that? I like roll up my windows, try to put my air on a little bit low, because if it's dirt, that's gonna suck for my allergies and it's gonna fuck up my sinuses. If it's smoke, same thing. If it's pollution, same thing. But if it's just dirty clouds, then it should be fine. So I roll up my windows. I'm going through to the point, like I've never seen this before. It's so thick, it lasts for a couple miles, and it was like fog. Like we were driving through, we couldn't see anything else on the road. It was just like a dirty fog. And then I started seeing like moisture on my window. I'm like, okay, these are actually like dirty clouds or like fog or whatever it is. So as soon as I got through that to the other side, that's when I started feeling a little bit of a twinge on the side of my head, just a little bit. By the time I get to my appointment, the twinge had increased. So I'm like, okay, I need to get out and I need to get some fresh air. I need to breathe. I need to walk. Because another thing that I've noticed is anytime that like my dad has come with me or like driven me to my appointments, we get there hella early and I just walk. I walk until it's time for my appointment. And each of those times my blood pressure was normal. It was perfect. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna test that theory again today. I'm kind of not feeling well. I haven't really eaten. I forget my Tylenol. Like I'm just not really prepared yesterday. So I get out and I just start walking to try and calm my nerves. Everything's fine. This is going to be the appointment where everything's going to be fine, and they're going to say, yay, transfer is on Monday. So I'm just pacing, I'm walking, I'm breathing, I'm trying to relax. My headache splits open. Like it just intensifies. And I'm like, okay, relax. So my headache like increases, my neck and shoulders start hurting really bad. I'm trying to stretch it, I'm trying to breathe through it. I have a backpack that I take just for this trip, and it has like change of clothes, it has meds, it has like supplies that I would need for IVF stuff, and just in case I need to stay the night, like I have stuff on deck. In that bag, I specifically have a Tylenol bottle for that. I don't know why I did it. It's still on the counter. I took that bottle out of my bag and I didn't have any other like Advil or painkillers or anything anywhere in my car. So I'm struggling through this migraine. Au naturel. I go up to get checked in, and my girl who takes my blood and does my blood pressure, we're chopping it up, and I can barely talk to her this time because my head is hurting so bad all of a sudden, right when I need it not to. I'm like freaking out. I feel crazy, like my head hurts. And so she takes my blood pressure and she's just like, yeah, I can tell you're in pain. Look at how high your blood pressure is. And I'm like, fuck. Blood pressure was like 138 over, I never see the bottom number. I'm always looking at the top number. 138 over something. She's just like, it's high. Do you want me to take it again? And I was like, yes. So I'm sitting up straight. I'm making sure my feet aren't crossed. I'm breathing. I'm trying to relax. Zen focus. She takes it again, and I think it dropped down to like 134. And she's just like, okay, I'm not gonna put that in your chart yet. Let's do it again after your ultrasound. But like when you come out, make sure to remind me to take it again because I'll forget. So I was like, okay. And I'm breathing, and she's like, maybe you can relax and take a deep breath like while you're waiting for the ultrasound in the room. So she takes me to my room. I'm getting ready, getting undressed, I'm breathing, I'm literally like trying to work it out. Meanwhile, my shoulder is like hurting so bad, my head is hurting, I'm trying to breathe, close my eyes. And then, so I have the ultrasound tech come in, and it's not Hilda, and it's not Colleen. It's not even Colleen. It's somebody else, and I'm like, who the fuck are you? You know I don't like change, especially for the ultrasounds. For the blood work, whatever. For the labs, whatever. But the ultrasound, it really depends on that person and that person's skill. Oh God, I hate this so fucking much. I hate this so much. When they change ultrasound techs on me, it kills me. All of a sudden, it's not the two girls, it's a new person, and I'm freaking out, and I'm like, what? Who are you? And like, side note, aside from like it depending on each person's skill, it's also like a new person in your vagina, bro. Like, you're in my shit. I have so many people in and out of my vagina all the time, and not in a way that's ideal. It sucks. And so when you just get blindsided with somebody new, you're freaked out a little bit because they're gonna be in your stuff, and like, I hate that. Like, I've gotten to know the other two girls. I have my preference. I know them. I'm comfortable with them. And now I have a new person between my legs, and I hate it. And I don't know anything about her. So she's in there, and she goes straight to like evaluating my uterus, making sure the lining is like where it should be. She just skips the ovaries entirely, which was great because we're not doing anything having to do with the ovaries anyways. But she spots this like little white area at the end of my uterus, and she's just like focused on that for like minutes. She's focused on that. She's mapping it out. She keeps putting like typing coding around it, and I'm like, and while she's doing that, I'm looking at, I'm assuming one of my ovaries down below that looked like a big follicle. But she's over here, and so when I'm staring at that big, darker spot, just curious, I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's a follicle that blew up. I said, what's that? And she's just like, oh, I don't know. It looks like there's something around we don't know what it is, but we're just, it's interesting that it's right there all of a sudden. And I'm like, so then I'm asking about this, she's looking at that, and then I start looking at that, and I was like, what is that? It's not something that I've ever seen before, but it was a light spot, not a dark spot. And she asked me, she's like, have you had an SIS before? And I was like, no, why? And I was like, is that like a cyst or something? Not even thinking that cysts are gonna be on your ovaries, right? And she wasn't even over there, she was over by the uterus. She's just like, or like it could be a polyp or something. And I was like, okay, that doesn't sound so bad, a polyp. And again, there's like on the screen, your uterus is like this thin line. And then at the end of that line was this light spot. So I'm like, okay. So she's focused on it. She's mapping it out, typing, click, clack, and whatever. And then she's just like, well, starts talking about SIS a little bit. And I was like, yeah, they've wanted me to do that in the past and I've declined it because X, Y, and Z, like, no. So she's like, okay, well, just stay right here. I'm going to take a picture of it and then take it to the doctor and see what he says about it. And I'm like, oh, fuck. What is this new thing? So I'm literally legs wide open, badge out, waiting for her to come back. She comes back with the doctor. Hi, haven't seen you or heard from you in a while. He comes in and is just like, it looks like we have seen something on the scan. We don't know what it is. It could be polyp, could be nothing. We don't know, but you know, we suggest that we wanted you to do an SIS before. That way we could just rule out everything and make sure that was okay before the transfer. And basically he's a doctor, right? He kind of talks in circles, plus he has a like really thick accent. And he's just like, which is fine. You opted out of that, that's fine. There's no right or wrong answer. Like, it's just preferred. It's ideal. In a perfect world, we want to make sure that there's nothing around the uterus so that when I put the baby in, like, there's nothing obstructing it. Like, there's no, we want to make sure it has a clean landing strip, which is understandable. And I was like, okay. Then he's just like, so, if you had a bunch of he's like, how many embryos do you have? If you had a bunch of embryos, I would say don't even worry about it. Like, let's just continue. But if you only have 1 or 2 embryos, then I wouldn't chance it. Like, I don't want to take that risk. And I was like, fuck. And then I was like, well, it's way over here. My uterus is here and it's way over here. So I was like, is this thing in a bad position, or like, where is it? Like, is it bad or okay? Or like, and he's just like, it's right where I would put the baby. And I'm like, of course it is. And so I'm like, at that point, I see it, they're seeing something. He's like, if we put the catheter in and we put the embryo in this spot, that is exactly where the white spot is. And I'm like, I don't want to knowingly, I see the thing and say, no, I don't want to examine what that is or explore what that is. Just put the baby in and let's just see who wins. Like, that's stupid. This is my last embryo. So I was at a pressure point in that moment with my legs open still, doctor and new girl, to make a decision. And he's just like, it's a 10-minute, if that, procedure. Well, just not a procedure, test. We'll see what it is. We can get that done today or we can get it done next week. It's up to you. And he's like, if there is something there, it can be easily removed via I have trouble saying this, hysteroscopy. Hysteroscopy. It could easily be removed that way. And if it's nothing, it's nothing. But we need to take like one step at a time. You make the decision, it's up to you. And then let the girls know to make the appointment for either today or next week. So I was like, fuck. So the doctor leaves. And then, and the whole time everybody just keeps saying, so sorry, sorry, sorry. And I'm just like, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? If it's not one thing, it's another. Like, everything else is fine. Meanwhile, I still don't know what like my blood work is showing. It's still being processed. So at this point, it's like, now they're focusing on a new problem. I don't know if I should start freaking out about this new problem. If my blood work is gonna say, well, her progesterone shot up anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Like, I almost would have rathered that versus like being freaked out about this new situation, right? I don't even know what my blood work is showing yet. So the nurse or the new ultrasound tech is just looking away, and I was like, I don't know what to do. So do I get dressed now and make the decision and go tell them that I want to have this? And she's just like, yeah. And I was like, or she's like, you could just tell me. And I'm like, no, I have to figure out if this is even covered in my insurance, or like, I need to figure some shit out. She's like, okay. So I get dressed, I go back out to the front, to the reception area, and I was like, they want to do an SIS on me today. I need to find out if this is even covered. If it's not covered, how much is it? When are you guys gonna want your money? Like all of the things. And she's just like, yeah, SIS is billable through insurance, which immediately pissed me off because that was one of the reasons why I didn't do SIS before, was because on the paperwork that I received, it specifically says saline infusion sonogram, not covered by insurance. It's a cash thing. God. Maybe I misread that. Maybe it was saying that if you don't have insurance, this is how much it's gonna cost, which was like $350 or something. So when I asked her if it was covered, she's just like, yeah, if you have insurance, it should be covered. And if you're gonna pay cash, then it's $400 and some odd. And I'm like, okay, you guys went up, because it didn't say that on my paperwork. So she's like, let me call down and double check for you. And I was like, thank you. So she calls down to somebody and was just like, this is patient blah, 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 blah. For SIS, is she covered for it? And they say yes. And she's like, yes. And I was like, then yes, book me for that today. So she's just like, it would be, you would come back in an hour, or she's like, actually no, I have something at 12:45, and it was already like 11:45. So she's like, okay, like go and like grab some lunch or something and then come back, but you have to come back 10 to 15 minutes before your appointment to like do the thing and sign the form and all the things. So I meanwhile still have a migraine. I'm almost shaking at this point. I need food. I need to like feel better physically so that I can figure out what is actually happening. What am I gonna do? Like, what is actually happening, right? And I know from the beginning that when you do SIS, you have to cancel your transfer. So I was just like, fuck. I already had a gut feeling that this was gonna be canceled for one reason or another. If it wasn't for my progesterone skyrocketing, it was gonna be for something, I guess. And this is the something. So I'm like freaking out. I'm not feeling well at all. It's chaos. It's busy in the office by the time I come out of my appointment. I run back down to my car, try to figure out if there's any miscellaneous pills in my car to help me get rid of this headache. There's not. I go and get food because I'm like, maybe it's because I'm hungry. I go and get food, scarf that down. I start to feel better, but it doesn't go away entirely. By the time I'm like, I get back to the parking lot while I'm eating, like it's time for me to run back upstairs and do the procedure. So I run back up. They couldn't figure out the form. Like all the forms are digital. There isn't anything on paper. They couldn't figure out how to get the form to me so that I could sign it, and that took like 10 minutes. There's a new girl up front. It's busy, it's chaotic. Oh, that's another thing. So when I come back out of my appointment, I wanted to have my blood pressure checked again by the girl, right? But I also didn't want to, because after all of this new development, I'm freaking out now. Panic is setting in, and I'm like, it's not gonna be any better because I'm freaking out. But when I come out, she's not there. It's a guy now. And the guy, so I was just like, yeah, I was supposed to get my blood pressure checked again because I have a headache. And he's just like, oh, well, I'll take it for you. And I was like, okay, she said that she wanted to do it, and I don't see her anywhere. I think she went on break. She went on her lunch break. And so when I came and got it done, he took it, and it was still high at 137 over something. And I was just like, shit. Or 137 or 138, I don't remember. And he just kind of looks at me and is just like, oh, okay, well, is everything okay? I'm like, my head hurts, I'm not feeling well. Then he's just like, oh, okay, well, I hope everything is all right. Like, he just didn't know what the fuck was going on either. So I left. I go back to the front. Oh, this is before. So then I go back to the front desk and I ask them all the questions about how much SAS costs, blah, blah, blah. I go down, get my food. I come back, scarf a little bit, run back upstairs. The new girl at the front desk couldn't figure out the form. The main lady at the front desk, I think she's like manager of reception, she's juggling like 5 people and the phone, and it was just a mess. So then while I'm at the desk trying to figure out the form, then my girl comes back from lunch and she taps me. She's like, come on, we have to take your blood pressure again. I was like, when I came out, you weren't here. Dude took it and it was still high, and she's just like, no, I'm gonna take it again, meet me back there. So I go back there again, and he's still there, and he's looking at me like, what the fuck are you doing back here? And I was like, she wanted me to take my blood pressure one more time. She told me to meet her back here, and he's like, oh, okay. So then here she comes, like, flying up behind me, and she's just like, yeah, I'm gonna take her blood pressure. And he's like, well, I already did it. And she's just like, no, it's fine, I got it, thank you. And so, like, we're all kind of like just getting in position, and she comes right over and puts it on me, and it's even higher than what, she didn't even let me see what it was. It's even higher than what he took, and she's just like, no, we're just gonna keep his results, okay? And I was like, they're gonna do SIS on me today. And she's just like, it'll be fine, it's probably for the best, like, it'll be fine, it'll be okay. So I'm like, fuck, okay. So I get out of her chair and go back, and like I had to use the restroom. And and then while I was there, I was like, can I please have that Tylenol that you offered me? Because she did offer me Tylenol, and I was like, no, it should be fine, it should be fine. I get back to my car and I don't find anything. So then I was like, fuck, when I didn't see her there, I was like, I should have gotten that Tylenol from her. So when she took my blood pressure again, I was like, can I actually get that Tylenol from you? So she gave me 2 pills. I was like, I'm just gonna take one, took the pill, went and sat in the lobby, waited, and then, what, maybe 15 minutes later or so, they called me back for my SIS, back into the like same room that I was in, and it was the ultrasound tech, the new girl, and then freaking Annalise, which it didn't register. It didn't register. They said her name earlier, and it didn't register like that it was her. And like, I'm gonna try and make this long story short, Annalise was one of the first nurses, like head nurses that I talked to in consultation for this clinic. The one who, like, she was one of the ones that made me feel incredibly like welcome and hopeful and awesome. But I had only talked to her a couple of times. I never met her. I never saw her at that clinic. And at first I was disappointed. I was like, oh, well, like, where is she? Maybe she's at the other location. I don't know. But I had never met her in person. I had only talked to her a couple times in the very beginning. So when she came into the room with the ultrasound tech, and I saw her face, and I saw her name, I was like, oh my God, it's Annalise. But I couldn't even have like a celebrity moment because I felt like shit. All things were happening. Like I just could not come back to my body to be like, oh my God, Annalise, we've never met, but you're like one of my heroes. And she had this like odd demeanor too. Like, I don't know if they're afraid of me or what it is in there. Maybe so. Maybe they are like all on eggshells because they know how like crazy and important this is to me. That I'm always on like, this is like my last chance. I only have one egg. I only have one shot. I like just, maybe that's what it is. But she was kind of like in a weird demeanor. But not mean or anything, just like everybody was super on eggshells. So she was the one that actually did the SIS, which made me nervous too, because I'm like, all these new people in my vagina, like, I didn't shave, like, I'm tired, I don't feel good, like, I'm not in the best mood, I'm upset about, like, having to do this. You guys finally got me with this stupid test, like, so much is going on. The new girl found some shit on my scan that nobody has ever found before. Like, it just was a shitty time, right? So she gets in there and does the SIS, and basically they take the speculum, they put it in your vagina, they open it up, and then they take the catheter and they like put it into your uterus, which it's just a tube. It's not a needle or anything. It's just a tube. They put that in through your uterus, and on the screen you can see all this. And they take a solution and they fill the uterus with the solution to open it up to see what lights up. The goal is to not have anything light up, because if anything lights up white, that means you have something there that needs to be removed before they could put the baby in. So that's what it was. They needed a clearer picture of what that little white thing was that showed up on the vaginal ultrasound was. So they put the tube in, they fill it with solution, and they're looking. and they're searching and they're looking and there's nothing there. There's a teeny tiny little like sliver of a something, like you can see a something, but it also looks like nothing. So whatever huge was glowing on the ultrasound, they call it, sometimes it could be an artifact, which means like a flaw in the technology, I guess, or like a light flash, or just something that's not actually there, right? They're like, it could have been an artifact. They're going back and forth talking to each other. Is this over here an artifact? Or da 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 da. Because there's nothing in the uterus really, except for this like little sliver. It's like a line, a white line. It's nothing. So then even Annalise was just like, I don't see anything really, but I do see a little something. We all could see the little sliver, super teeny tiny. So she's just like, I know that this is really uncomfortable, but I need you to just like wait right here, and we're gonna go get the doctor to see what he says. So here I am, not only spread eagle, but I'm gaped wide open, literally. The speculum, the ultrasound, like the tube, everything is in my vagina, wide open, and I'm supposed to just hold. She goes out and gets the doctor, and he comes in to see what it is that they're seeing. And he's like, well, what are you seeing? Because he's looking at everything, and he's just like, well, what? And they're like, well, we were looking for that that like white area. And he's just like, what white area? Meanwhile, they took a picture of the ultrasound at first and took it to him for him to review, and he came in and was just like, yeah, we want to test to see what that is. That just happened. So then when he comes back in, he's just like, well, what? I don't see anything. Like, what is it? And they're like, well, you know, that picture that we just showed you, that like that white thing. And he's just like, oh, okay, well, let me look a little bit closer. So they show him that little sliver of a thing that is like popping up, and he's just like, oh yeah, everything looks good. But sometimes there could be like a protrusion in the uterus, or basically it was nothing. Basically there was nothing in my uterus. Everybody was freaking out and freaked me the fuck out for no reason at all. Here's the kicker, right? All three of them are in the room now. And before we got started, Annalise was like, did they explain to you that when you have SIS, that means that your transfer would have to be canceled, and then we'd have to start over like on a new cycle? And I was just like, yeah, I guess. At this point, I'm literally just like, I don't care. Whatever you guys feel like you need to do, just do it. Like, I have the worst attitude. I'm just like, whatever. And I was like, yeah, I know. And so at this point, I'm almost hoping that this is not, I don't even think for a second that this would be all for nothing. I'm thinking they're going to do this test because they really see something there, and there's going to be a polyp or something there, and they're going to need to like drain it or pop it. I don't know what they do for polyps, remove it. That's what this was going to be, and it was going to be canceled because I have a polyp in my uterus now, and they need to get it, and all of that would make sense. Nothing else even came into play as an option. So when she asked me that, I was like, yeah, just go ahead and do it. The doctor came in and was just like, yeah, everything looks good, it's fine. He said we can go ahead and continue with, I suggest, you know, we can go ahead and continue with the transfer cycle. And I was just like, okay, thank you. When he said that, he's like, yeah, we can continue with the transfer cycle. Everything looks good. I was like, okay. He leaves. I look at them, and they're kind of like side-eyeing, looking around. And so she's like taking everything out, and then she's just like, well, it looks like everything looks good. We're sorry that this canceled your cycle. And then I was just like, wait, but that's not what he said. He said that we could continue. I don't know what that means. So then I'm looking at her, and I was just like, well, what do I do next then? Do I call with my next period or what? And they're both like, yeah, just call us, like, you know, stop taking the meds and everything, and as soon as you do that, your period should start within a couple days anyways, and then just like call us, excuse me, just call us and then we'll start over. And I was like, okay, but they were still kind of looking also confused. So then I walk out because I'm like, maybe I misunderstood. I walk out, I go back to my car, I have my moment. I'm just like so fucking upset because everything else was probably perfect, and it was, for me to continue with my transfer on Monday or Tuesday. But because this new chick found nothing on the ultrasound, they pressured me to get this. They didn't pressure me. There was pressure to get the freaking SIS test, the one test that I've been avoiding this entire fucking time. I get that test that automatically cancels the cycle, and there was nothing even there. Nothing. That's what pissed me off. There was nothing even there. Like I've been saying, this test is useless for me. I don't need it. I don't need it. I've been avoiding it until now. I finally did it, and it fucked me up. And then, so I get back on the road. I'm like, my headache had gone back down, but because I started crying, it automatically came back in my head, and everything was fucked. So I'm back on the road. I get a call from LIC, and this girl is just like, yeah, so how are you? And I'm like, I'm honestly not doing very well, but it's fine. What? And she's just like, well, the doctor wants you to start taking progesterone tomorrow for your transfer. And I was just like, what? And she's just like, yeah, the doctor wants you to start taking progesterone, and I just wanted to make sure you had the medication for it. And I'm like, the fuck do you mean? They just canceled my cycle. And she's just like, oh, so you want to cancel? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I want to cancel. You guys just canceled my cycle because I had SIS today. And she's just like, oh, you had SIS? And I was like, I just left from doing SIS today. They wanted me to do it. And I was like, the doctor said that we could continue with the transfer. Such and such and such and such just told me to cancel, and that I'd have to call back at my next period. So I need you guys to figure out what the proper instructions are at this point. And she's just like, oh, okay, let me like call the doctor and talk to him, and like I'll call you right back. And I was like, cool. 3 minutes later, I get a call back. I'm thinking it's her. It's one of the head nurses, and she's just like, Erica, yeah, like you just had SIS, so we suggest that like you cancel the cycle. And I was just like, okay, like I already know that. I'm already on my way home. But this girl just called me and said that to start taking progesterone tomorrow. And she's just like, well, it's because she didn't see the notes about SIS. We didn't know that you were going to do SIS. And I was like, it's not something that I decided to do all of a sudden. They suggested that I do it. And she's just like, who's they? Who's they? And I was like, such and such, such and such, and the doctor were all there. They all were there. And I was just like, the doctor said that I could continue, that, you know, everything looks good for me to continue. Everybody else is saying, like, cancel. Like, I don't know, like, what is it that you guys want me to do? And she's just like, honestly, we think it's the best decision for you to cancel, because you're gonna have, like, and she just starts explaining why you can't do SIS in the same cycle as a transfer. She's just like, the fluid that they put in your uterus, like, it's going to be retained, and we don't want to put your one embryo in there when there's fluid and like something happens. Like, we don't want to risk it. Like, we think it's a good idea for you to just like cancel and then just call us back. Like, we're so sorry, but like it has to be this way. And I'm just like livid, because I'm like, first of all, is the doctor awake? Is he awake? Because why would he suggest to continue the transfer cycle? Like, I don't, is he a zombie today? Like, I don't understand why all of the nurses and the techs are saying one thing and the doctor, who is head honcho, is saying another thing. If it's such a bad idea, why would he say to continue? And if he really thinks that it's possible to continue, why are all of you going against what he's saying? Girl. Pissed. Livid. So upset. By the time I get home and I open my portal and see what my labs were perfect. They were fine. My lining was at a 9 point something. My LH was 20. My progesterone was still 0.10. My estrogen was 465. Everything was perfect. And I could have been in a very different position had it not been for that fucking tech who found nothing on my ultrasound that pushed me to get the SIS and canceled the whole fucking thing. I'm still disgusted. I'm still upset. This is the second time where I've wasted time off work, resources, energy, emotions, all the things, more wear and tear on my car for nothing. For absolutely nothing. On my way back home, I get a check engine light, or like a check engine light, and that freaked me the fuck out. And I was like, of course, baby, like of course. Like I'm not even mad at you for needing services on your car, on the car, because I've been running you into the ground for no reason. So yeah, I know you're tired. It just turned out to be like I need an oil change, but all of that makes sense because I'm driving miles, hundreds of miles all the time for nothing, for this. And now I have to do it all over again. And then the instructions were, we want you to start taking Provera. We want you to start taking Provera tonight for 10 days and then call us when you're ready on cycle day 1. When I'm ready, I've been fucking ready. And I don't have any Provera here because they only give me 10 pills at a time. So I don't have any Provera already with me. And they didn't put the prescription in with my pharmacy. So I couldn't start it last night. And it didn't matter anyways because I didn't check the message until I got home. And so this morning I wake up to put in the prescription to get it, and it says that they have to connect with the provider because they didn't send the prescription. So, yeah, that's where we're at. So, and then even still, you know, the techs were like, or the nurses were like, just stop taking all the medicine and call us when your period starts, which is one way to do it. This says, take another pill for 10 days and then call us. So now I'm into October. Didn't happen August, didn't happen September, now I'm into October. Meanwhile, remember, I'm also needing to get this done before the end of the year. Meanwhile, I also don't want to be doing this through the holidays like I was doing last year. I don't fucking want that. I want to either know that I'm pregnant or know that I've had, like, it didn't work before the holidays, before my birthday, before Christmas. Like I don't want to be going through this through the holidays again. We're pushing into October. So at some point I will be doing transfer cycle attempt number 3. I have so much cleaning to do, and now that I spilled this tea, and my floor is sticky. Now I have to, well, I need to mop anyways. But yeah, I've taken so much estrogen. I'm concerned about what that's actually doing to my body now. Like the residual effects of all this medication, I'm concerned. So I need to do some research on what the fuck is actually happening. And just like that, that was transfer cycle number 2. That was yesterday. Complete and total bullshit. Just wanted to scream. need to get my shit together before 5 o'clock because I have a situation today at 5 that I don't want to cancel and be that person, because I need to go and I need to do this. But I also wish I was in better spirits to go on a situation. Other than that, I just don't want to deal. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to stay in here. I want to clean. I want to be with my plants, which are happier than I am right now, which gives me some joy. I've got flowers growing on my Hoya. Everybody in here is happy. It's just me that's the fucking killjoy. Broke one of my favorite pots. One of my favorite plants was holding on to the blinds. Some of these plants, they cling and hold on to stuff and each other and blinds that sometimes I don't notice it. So one of my plants was holding on to the blinds, and I closed them, and when I closed the blinds, the plant was holding on and fell off the shelf, and it shattered the pot that it was in. And I love that pot, and I know I'm not going to be able to find another one like it. Some of the glass is still on the floor. Don't worry, it's in an area where nobody's going to go back there, but I do need to get it up. But I need to get, I just need to clean every part of this apartment. But I also feel like, fuck it, no. I don't want to. I don't want to do anything. I'm starting to get text messages though from people. Don't want to do that either. Oh God, help me. That's it. I'm gonna end this video. It's probably longer than it needs to be, but I just put the entire cycle in one video versus doing each appointment video. That's a lot. So I'm gonna edit this and put it out there for you guys. It'll be closer to real time. And I'm gonna do my very best to clean up all of my memory sticks and my drives and clouds and stuff, so that I can start putting out the videos like I said I was going to, twice a week or so, and get the editing done quicker. There's a major delay because I'm having to, I'm always out of space on my devices. So it's such a stupid problem to have, such a rookie problem to have, but it's a problem that I have, so I'm gonna get it together. That's it. I'm gonna finish my tea and I don't know, binge watch something.